Welcome to the Path to Brilliance podcast, featuring Utica City FC, where we highlight their shine one facet at a time. I'm your host, Shay McNamara, the performance and mindset coach for Utica City FC. This is episode 2 with Andrew Coughlin. All right, Andrew, thank you for coming.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
So, Andrew, before we get into everything, I would love to know how you got into soccer and how your family life influenced all of that experience.
Yeah, so I probably started playing soccer when I was about 4 or 5 years old. My older sister played, and so for me, having to go to like her games, something I just picked up, and then I fell in love with the game. Uh, I was never great when I was a kid. I was athletic. I could run around a lot. But then once I became, 12 or 13, I really took that step to um, really just kind of hone in on the skills that I had and focus in on the goalkeeper position. And then, the rest is kind of history. I'm where I am today.
So I got to ask, how were you as a field player? Was it immediate goalie or like talk to, obviously everyone has their interpretations of why goalies
Right.
are goalies. There's a lot of different logical reasons, but did you start out as a goalie or were you a field player or what was your draw to becoming a goalie?
Yeah. So I feel like well, the goalkeeper gets to wear a little bit more like of a costume, right? When you're a kid. So I was drawn to that. But I was never just solo only a goalie. Um when until about age 12, 13.
Yeah.
I played on the field. I was athletic, but I'm sure some of my friends also know that I struggled to get some playing time as we got older as a field player. Um, so I was more of a super sub potentially, just to give some guys a breather. But then that's where I realized, hey, maybe this isn't my strongest point, and I really kind of dove in and focused on, I want to be a goalkeeper. I was third string on my club team at the time, but I kind of took the steps that were necessary to kind of hone in on those skills, try to perfect those skills, and then it's taken me where I am today. So
Absolutely. So, growing up, I was also the backup goalie because I was very athletic. We only had one carried one goalie, but when there was an injury, I was able to do it. But I was always a field player. Played every position, was very good. But whenever we needed a goalie, I would do it. And then there was another guy who was a little bit less than me, but ended up working out because they needed me more in the field. But I really understand the game of goalie because of that experience and because of the psychological warfare of the challenges that you guys go through. And also, almost like the reverse psychology of when you are a field player, knowing how and where they probably want to play it or where they are thinking how they're going to beat you and how that's kind of like an asset to me when I was playing goalie. I'm sure that was probably for you. Can you explain to me how that helped your IQ development with the game of soccer and how to read the game and how to read sometimes before they even make a decision, you already know intuitively. You understand what I'm saying?
yeah, no, I think it helps. Getting a feel for knowing how you want to perform or play in other positions definitely kind of impacted my soccer IQ. It allowed me to kind of think about the game more holistically rather than just from that one position.
Mhm.
And so understanding not only for guys on my team, like when we're in possession, where they want to receive the ball, where the open spaces might be, but also two, for the opposing team, what spaces are going to try to exploit. How can we make sure that we're covered in those areas? And then, that game of cat and mouse between the attacking player and the goalkeeper, right? Like you said, they're trying to, find the spots or pick the spots to beat you. I'm trying to understand, and almost bait them into, where do I want them to play that ball? And so, yeah, it's helped immensely for sure.
Absolutely. So when you were growing up, were you more attracted to the indoor game or outdoor game, or were you playing simultaneous both? Because when I played, we played indoor. Milwaukee Wave was our team, and that was on ESPN. I grew up with Keith Tozer, Coach Keith Tozer's son, so I was able to get in the locker room. So my experience with indoor game was very like normal, like it was like the Milwaukee Bucks or the Milwaukee Brewers for me.
Right.
How was your experience with obviously both games? I mean, it's soccer, but it's two different soccer. So explain to me how you developed with all that.
Yeah, so in all honesty, the indoor game wasn't really top of mind at all. We didn't have a team in our area until I was a freshman in college, and so I really didn't even know about the game. And so for me growing up, it was always I want to be, the mindset was always I wanted to be a professional, but when I was saying that, it was I wanted to be an outdoor professional.
Yeah.
I wanted to play, the 11v11, at the highest level I could, and so really, I didn't even when the team came around when I was a freshman, like it was a cool experience. It was cool to, on college breaks, I would go home and train with the team because it was in my hometown.
Mm.
Um, and obviously having a good relationship with Tommy growing up,
Yeah.
but it was never something that I was like, hey, I really want to do this. Just because it's taxing as a goalkeeper, right? You go from outdoor soccer where shutouts, clean sheets, makes you feel good about yourself. And then you go to the indoor game where you could give up 5 goals and still win. And it's just a different mindset. And so for me, it was never really kind of on the radar until it was after I graduated college. So yeah, it was always outdoor for me. But I from now on, I love the indoor game. I would never go back to outdoor. Um, and I think this was kind of the best shift in that perspective for me, kind of growing up and maturing as a player.
Yeah. So talk to us about that shift. What was the mindset growing up with regards to who and how you needed to, and even what you needed, what skill sets you needed to have from going from outdoor, playing collegiately, doing your thing with all that, and then going into indoor? Just explain to the viewers what that psychologically and just obviously from an intellectual standpoint, obviously physical standpoint, skill standpoint.
Yeah.
Can you explain to the viewer what that transition was like? Because that is a very profound difference just logically.
Yeah. Well, for this, I think it's one of my character traits. It can be good, but it can also be a flaw. My wife will say this as well. I like to try to be in control and be perfect at almost everything that I do. And so making that shift from outdoor to indoor, again, you're giving up 3 or 4 goals. It could be within a span of 15 minutes, but you might be playing a great game. And so
Yeah.
it's that shift. And so when I realized that um, the time came, actually my first professional indoor game, I was signed I was signed on the Wednesday. Our first game was on the Friday. Um, and so I still didn't know all the rules.
Oh,
I still wasn't fully aware of kind of all the intricacies of the game. And so the one goal, and for me, it's a little bit easier as a goalkeeper, right? It's try to keep the ball to the back of the net.
yeah.
If you can do that, hopefully your team will have success. And so, that shift was, hell yeah, I'll play. I'll love to sign and play for the weekend. Uh, we played St. Louis the first game. We went into a shootout. We won the game. Um,
Shootout. I mean, that's
which
like,
was, yeah, my first game. I had no idea what was going on, but that was awesome. And then on the Sunday, undefeated Baltimore came in. They were 11-0. They had beat our team earlier in the season 6-0. Um, and so we really weren't expected to win. And I make 2 mistakes, give up 2 goals in the first half. I think even first quarter. And kind of in my head a little bit, but I was like, you know what? It's 2 goals indoor. There could be a lot of goals. We end up winning the game 3-2, knock off
oh,
undefeated Baltimore.
wow.
And so, the course of that weekend, my first weekend in indoor soccer, my goals against average was 2, which is incredible. Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
never just concede 2 goals a game. And so from that point, Tommy came up to me and said, "Hey, would you like to play the rest of the season? Like, we'd love to have you." I said, "Yeah, it's great." And so that shift happened, as soon as I was like, hey, this could be the real thing for me.
Yeah.
Um, I put all my efforts, all my mindset towards how can I perfect what I do in this position? How can I be in control of what I can do here? And take everything that I've learned and push it into this indoor game, which is very new and fresh, but and it's been a great journey over the last, 9 or 10 years.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, clearly.
Yeah,
So talk to us because I mean, when I played basketball overseas and I transitioned to Australian rules football, there was a massive learning curve because I obviously never even heard of the sport. Kind of like with you with indoor, you had to change. I didn't even know position. I mean, I knew nothing. I mean, it was at least with you, you had a little bit of understanding. It is still the same thing, sort of, but like just explain to us how hard that transition was from the physical, from obviously the mental of what we just articulated, like up 2 goals and wait, it's like 2 goals indoor is not the equivalent of outdoor.
right.
Yeah, and then not to mention just the skill sets of being able to have the ball at your feet more often. I mean, that's a crazy transition from not really touching it outdoor to having it kind of like almost at least a quarter or to maybe 10% of the time you're gonna have it on your feet or your hands. So can you explain to us how hard and challenging that was and what you did to help you accelerate your development?
Yeah. It was incredibly hard, especially the feet aspect, because one, not only are you under that much pressure in the outdoor game, right? Everybody's right on top of you in the indoor game, so you have to be clean with your feet. But secondly, too, like you have certain parameters where you can only play the ball. You can't kick it 3 lines. You don't want to kick it out of bounds in your defensive end because it's a top of the box free kick.
Yep.
So like you're so limited in what you can do, and in trying to figure that out, it was, that first year, it was basically just get over the yellow line and hit it in the corner.
Yeah.
And that's just to get comfortable with doing that. And as I've progressed over my career, I feel that I've become more and more proficient with my feet, and have can really utilize that as as the extra attacker, as an outlet for my team. Obviously, with the rules changing over the last couple of years, where we only get the one touch
Yeah.
in our offensive half,
Yeah.
makes it a little bit more difficult.
Mhm.
But it's something that I've kind of embraced, and really just tried to play in possession games, work with other teammates on trying to improve my touch and doing those things, because again, I want to be in control of what I can do and perfect what I can do.
Mhm.
The other biggest learning curve was getting used to the boards, right? Shots from straight on, pretty similar. One-on-one situations, pretty similar. You have a certain box that you have to stay in, but the goal's smaller, so it's proportionate,
Yeah.
to what you're doing.
Yeah.
But the boards was crazy for me, and trying to understand not only how the ball could come off the boards to another player, but how you could try to have an impact on, getting in front of that ball or trapping the ball against the boards. And so I have to give a lot of credit to the Silver Knights goalkeeper at the time, Brian O'Quinn. When I came into the league, he kind of took me under his wing, and he was pretty successful in what he did, and really kind of would work tirelessly with me to kind of perfect and improve all of those different skill sets. And so even my second year in the league, he was our head coach, and we would train in the summer, we would train rigorously during the season to just really try to see as much of those reps as possible, because you only gain experience from making mistakes or seeing it. And so I put myself in those situations. I want to see what happened, and from that, it's kind of just evolved into a way of understanding that. And it definitely took some time, but I'd like to say that I've become a pretty decent goalkeeper in the league,
Yeah.
um, and it's based on that hard work and the people that were willing to take the time to work with me, and for that, I'm forever grateful.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're doing that now with Full Stretch Academy. So explain to the viewers what your intentions were when you came up with the idea and how you've been doing it and the success it's brought.
Yeah, so when I graduated college and started playing in the league, I was a goalkeeper coach at Syracuse University, and was a great experience. I played at Syracuse for a bit with that staff, and so for them to bring me back on as a coach, I got to learn the kind of the coaching side really from them. And one of my mentors at the time, Utica Maslin, he's like a UEFA A or B licensed coach, so he knows his stuff. Former goalkeeper in the Bundesliga, so being able to share an office with him and understand how to, we're not reinventing the wheel as goalkeeper coaches, but we can sharpen up the players through different exercises. And so for me, one of the greatest parts of my journey was I had a personal goalkeeper coach when I was 12, 13, 14 years old. I did one-on-ones. My parents put money into, I said, hey, this is what I want to do. They were willing to put money into that for me. And so that changed my trajectory. I went from being a third string goalkeeper to a starter, to a state cup champion, to a high school state finalist, to a Division I goalkeeper. And so I thought about that and I wanted to give back. And I always did private training sessions with kids. But when I started Full Stretch Goalkeeper Academy, it was really to kind of give all that knowledge back to the masses, not just individual private sessions, but rather in a group setting, in a clinic setting where kids who are just trying to test out the position or have even been playing in the position for years can come in, hone their skills, understand the fundamentals from somebody who's kind of been through their journey. And really try to be that resource for them, because I know that people poured their time into me. And so for me, I just feel that I have to give that back.
Absolutely. And obviously, I don't know if anybody knows this, but Andrew's also a financial manager. So, you can explain to in a minute about that. But parents need help financially at times too, because they want to provide everything they can for their child. But just unfortunate circumstances with the way the youth soccer and the travel is, the costs have gone extreme. So having the ability to have an outlet like you to, really support, because most clubs actually don't have a lot of goalie coaches, to say the least. So that in of itself makes you feel isolated and almost abandoned. So for you to have this academy, it's amazing, and the fact that they're able to make it in a cheaper price point for whether it's individuals or obviously a group, it's got to be really beneficial for everybody. And I'm sure you have a lot of appreciation from the parents.
Oh, I do. And it's great to see that too, because there's parents that will do anything for their kids, and I love to see that. And so that's part of the reason why I want to do the group sessions, and I want to do that because not everybody can afford private sessions. It can be expensive, but with the group sessions, we still cover the fundamental side of it. And from there, the kids can also see if it's something they're really in love with, right? Like, because I recommend to everybody, unless you truly know this is what you want to do the group session,
Yeah.
because the group session gives you that you dip your toes in, you get to see how it works. You can maybe fall in love with the position, or a great lesson to learn is say, hey, I really don't like this, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And then from there, as we go into the private sessions, those are the keepers that are committed, that want to improve, that want to be, that want to take that same path that I took. And so for that, we have these different kind of training paths that they can take, and the parents, I see this all the time. The parents do everything for their kids and try to, I got parents that drive their kids from Utica to come to some of these sessions, which I host them in Syracuse. So it's an hour drive in the winter, with the snow falling at nighttime.
Right.
It's great to see that, these kids have that support system. And, I'm always happy to help out in any way that I can.
Yeah, absolutely. And not to mention, having the group and having the brotherhood and the sisterhood and having people that you can relate to, not just with you, obviously, because you're literally walking that talk and training and being able to literally go through it, and they can watch you every week and you can explain to them how, what your thought processes were, and how you were handling the adversity and everything else. So, I mean, that in itself is amazing. But having the brotherhood and sisterhood with your fellow goalkeeper, which again, you're very much an isolated island. Most of the team cannot relate to you. They don't understand you. There's just a lot of, aspects of being a goalie that really doesn't feel too good sometimes. And to have somebody you can relate to is also probably very valuable, to say the least.
Certainly, certainly. And kids always get disappointed when they give up goals. And I tell them, guys, I've probably given up thousands of goals in my career. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
you're always going to give up a goal. You're always going to make a mistake. It stinks for us because it's amplified in the fact that any mistake can be a goal. But at the end of the day, I tell them all the time, you learn from that. It's not like you lose or you lose something by giving up a goal. You learn like, hey, did I make the right decision in that moment? And if you didn't, that's a great lesson. Now I know I can go back to the drawing board, reinvent it.
Right.
Um, and so it's cool because you're right. That mindset piece for the goalkeeper is it's very different. It's
Yeah.
it's it's very different from the field player's mindset. And so I always want to be a sounding board for them. And I start every session. Hey, how'd the games go this weekend, guys? How'd we do? And
Right.
they're honest. Hey, we won. Hey, we got crushed. We lost 10-0.
Right.
I go, all right, what'd you learn?
Yeah.
It's not, hey, how that's terrible. You played like trash. No, I said, okay, what'd you learn about yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
And so we have that kind of camaraderie, like you said, and um, yeah, it's a great environment.
So just to go dive deep a little bit, I've said this to you a few times. I work with other goalies as well, so it's very awesome to have these types of conversations with a fellow goalie. When you really compartmentalize, and that's probably one of the hardest things we as human beings have to deal with sometimes. It's like being able to segregate that one experience or that one relationship or that one facet that's within us that's literally not the most friendly and most kind and most good feeling, and then being able to just kind of shut that off and go into the next life or the next hat that you're putting on. Obviously that's very hard, hence why people are moody at times. But the idea for you as a goalie, especially when you get scored on, I always say there's four goals. There's obviously the worst of worst is the error, miscalculation, a team goal, and obviously and impossible to save. And you and I both know these are probably the more frustrating ones, and these obviously don't hurt as bad. They're frustrating in general because you don't want to get scored on. But can you explain to us how well you have adapted your mindset to being able to compartmentalize goals?
Yeah. And to be fair, until I got into the professional environment, I didn't realize how important it was. But my trainer, my goalkeeper coach, back when I was 13, 14, kind of came up with this thing, and he said, you make a mistake, grab a blade of grass, throw it away, say mistake gone, right? And as a kid, a teenager, a punk, I didn't really understand the value in that. I
You're a
wasn't
punk.
right.
Wait, you're telling.
No,
Wait,
I wasn't really. No,
should we
I
call
wasn't
should
really.
we call your mom and dad about that?
Yeah,
Should we just
no.
clarify?
but but not I was taking it as just what he said. I wasn't thinking deeper about it. And as I've grown through my college years and through the professional years, that holds a lot of weight for me now. And I do that. Like if I make a mistake, a personal error,
Mhm.
right, or a miscalculation, um, I have to reset. You have to reset as a goalkeeper because if you keep dwelling on that and dwelling on that, more and more mistakes are going to come.
Mhm.
And so if it's an error with my hands or anything like that, I'll look for a piece of turf on the field or a piece of tape. I'll pick it up. I'll throw it away. I'll say, "Hey, fresh start." Like I'm back to being the best goalkeeper in the world. And that's the mindset I kind of approach it with. And whether that's true or not is for everybody else to decide. But that's how you have to cross the lines and think.
Mhm.
Um, and then even if it's a mistake with my feet, I remember a couple of games last season, I was just poor with my feet. And during a timeout or in between quarters, I literally took off my gloves, took off my shoes, and then retied everything. Put them
Mhm.
back on, retied everything because it's just that mental reset. Okay, hey, fresh start now, and it's the sooner you can implement that as a goalkeeper, the better off you're going to be because those things that you can just forget about, you're always going to make mistakes. You can always be better. Nobody's ever perfect. But the sooner you can learn from that and not dwell on it, the more success you're going to have at a quicker rate. And so, something that was taught to me at 13, 14, I didn't really ever implement until I was probably 22, 23, 24. you know, 10 years down the road, but it's made a huge difference in how I approach the game and how I kind of deal with those different aspects of what can happen for the position.
Absolutely. It's also part of the maturity growth. There's the maturity growth, the professional growth, and obviously the skill sets. And obviously, when you compartmentalize all that, there's even more. So, how did you have the impact that you, or excuse me, how did you receive the impact from your parents to support you during those times?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
How did you have the experience with your mom and dad supporting you and challenging you, especially when you were a punk at times? Maybe
Yeah.
Christmas gonna be fun. Oh, remember that punk? So, like, all jokes aside, can you explain to me how the impact that your parents made on you, especially when you might not been willing to receive that type of real talk?
Yeah. So my dad's was a teacher. And my parents were never super athletically inclined.
Mhm.
Uh, and so, you know, me and my sister played sports. They were huge fans. Not necessarily did they know everything about the game or the ins and the outs, right? Um, but the one thing my dad would do is, you know, when we go on these long road trips for travel soccer when I was a kid, was, you know, we get in the car after a game, whether we won, lost, um, and we just have a conversation. And it wasn't, hey, you should have done better, or hey, you're the best goalkeeper out there. It was, you know, like, hey, you know, what went well today? You know, hey, what do you think you could improve on? You know, they'd notice something. Hey, I saw that, like, when you were taking your goal kicks, you know, you weren't really getting them where you wanted to. Do you know why that was? And so it was more that teaching and that questioning of making me kind of have that self-assessment versus them either saying, "Hey, you're the greatest thing on earth," or "Wow, you played like crap." It really made me have a look intrinsically, and I think that helped more with the development process because you can you can say all you want, but deep down, you know whether or not that's the truth, and that's the core truth, right? And so I could say, "Oh, I played great. I was the best out there, no problem." But that core truth is going to be like, well, did you really do everything you could to to be the best that you could be in that moment? And having that self-assessment, I think, really allowed me that maturity to to look and not be delusional, but rather understand, okay, hey, I'm not always perfect,
Right.
but if I can identify what went wrong or what went well, I can, okay, what can I do more of, and what do I need to improve on in my training sessions to bring these my weaknesses up to where these strengths are.
Right, absolutely. And that's the reason why I have the FEE acronym. There's nothing that is hidden from exposing what you did to create. Most of us as humans, we just literally just react and we get into superiority complex or inferiority complex or the victimhood. All logical, all fair at times logically, but the idea is it's kind of a waste of time if you spend too much time on it. And a lot of people as you and I both are well aware and guilty of at times of going down that rabbit hole. And it's therapeutic to vent it out, of course, but to stay in that frequency, it's very useless. And so that analyzation is so key. So I'm really glad that obviously you're doing that now, clearly, but really for all the individuals that you impact with Full Stretch Academy, I think that's going to be really paramount for their success and to accelerate their development with their maturity, their professionalism, and obviously their skill sets.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And again, it's like I said, so many people have poured into me. And so for me to be able to give that back and have the conversations, and you know, the one thing about our position is one goalkeeper gets to play,
Yeah.
right? And so that's also a mental side of it. And understanding, like, hey, I played at Syracuse University, and I I sat behind a kid who has had a great career in the MLS. He's won the MLS Cup. Um, and that's tough because you feel like you're performing, but there could always be somebody who's just performing a little bit better.
Yeah.
Uh, and being able to understand that, and instead of, you know, going to that dark place or that victimhood, but rather use that to drive and motivate you to try to improve. change your situation, which is what I did. I transferred out, became a captain at another Division I school, and set 7 school records.
Mm.
And so, which way do you want to go on that scale? And so that's where, if I can try to instill that into the keepers I work with today and understand that the current moment is not always going to be your forever situation, but what can you do about it to kind of get you to where you want to be?
So transitioning to now with the team and obviously having me, you know, how has just me, we're just talking me and you. How has your experience with me helped you throughout the last really two and a little bit of a quarter of a year? How's that been for you to have someone like me with you, with talking about from leadership stuff to dynamics of the team to obviously you to obviously personal stuff, all of that? How has that been to have that asset?
It's been, for me, it's been huge. The ability to kind of have that person in your corner who's kind of, you're not just pumping us up, right? You're calling us out, you're holding us accountable, but you're also there to allow us to one vent and have that conversation and really engage and not just tell us what we want to hear, but rather kind of like I said with my father, like you make us think intrinsically, okay, what can we be doing better? How can we enhance the situation? And on a personal level as well, like um the mindset to approach things, the mindset to approach other relationships, it's been great. And I think that I've grown over the last 2 years with that. Credit to you and your your diamond state of mind and what you're trying to do with that. And um, you know, it's been helpful. And I think for us, it's not everybody's ready or at that spot to accept everything yet. And I think that comes with a little bit of maturity. But I think that
It's
when
not
they
me.
get
It's not me, is it?
no, but I think that when they get there, they'll realize what an asset it can be. Even in my professional life, right? As you know, in the financial industry, there are so many people that have these performance coaches and these mindset coaches to have them try to think bigger and really enhance their business. And I'm lucky and fortunate that I've got you through this avenue with Utica, but we really have kind of connected on a personal level and have kind of expanded that out. And it's been awesome for me. So I do thank you for that.
Oh yeah, no, it's been my pleasure. It's always good when people realize that yes, I am the mirror, and I try to be as sensitive as I possibly can at times, but also it is a business and we have to achieve. And if you're not achieving, then unfortunately in the business, you will not be worthy to have the line of business that you want. And so it's a hard challenge with that. But that's why I think with what you're doing with your academy, you're keeping it real with them and you're letting them know this is what it takes. And if you're not willing to be, do, and have what it takes, you're not going to be on your path to your brilliance. And that's really what it boils down to at the end of the day. And I think you've done that. You with your regular life, and just as a human being, with your business life, your relationship with your family, you just got married, being a man, being a husband, and everything that will come after that. I think you're more ready for that based on how you've approached your soccer and utilizing the tool of what soccer has provided you to become the man that you were meant for, that you were destined for. And that's really what I embrace with the path to brilliance. It's like, are you on that brilliance? Are you really going after it? And are you intentional and are you integral to the spirit of what you want to commit to? And I think you embody that really well. And it's been my privilege and honor to work with you and to see you shine. And you've obviously got the results that match and mirror what you are worthy of. So it's a credit to you. Absolutely.
Appreciate that, Shay. Thank you.
So how's it been with the team? Just explain how you've been evolving with obviously Coach Everton and I coming last. Well, this is our third year together with you guys. How you've been? Can you explain us how we are going on our path to our brilliance as a team and what you see in the future for us?
Yeah, I mean, I think with the indoor league, it's tough because there's some player movements every year, so it's not always the same group that's with
Right.
every year, but the same core is kind of maintained over the 3 years that coach has been here, and you can see from year one to now the growth and the understanding of the systems that we want to play and the tactics that we're trying to impose. Year one for me was a little frustrating because facing a lot of shots, we're making a lot of mistakes, we're trying to get used to it, but we still ended up having some success.
Yeah.
Year two,
That
we
was
got a
more
little
like
bit better.
first half of the season to second
Yeah,
half. That was kind of like we only won a few games in the first half of the season.
right, exactly.
Like we were not good statistically, but you could
Yeah,
see the development with that. And then obviously we killed
we
it.
turned it on in that last half of the season,
Yeah.
right? And then that kind of led into year two where well, then we started the season hot. I think we were 6-0, and we continued that. And we had some ups and downs, and there's ebbs and flows with the season. Injuries play a role, things like that. But um, we've continued to grow, and I think now, going into this year again, we're only 2 games into the season. But I think if you're a Utica fan and you've been following the team, if you watch the 2 games this past weekend, you'll see that we weren't perfect. We weren't the best team on the field necessarily at all times. But the one thing that we didn't do was give up, and we didn't cave in, and we didn't and we kind of stuck to the game plan. And so that's a credit one to coach because hey, he's keeping us on track. He's making sure we're still trying to execute what we want to do. But also a credit to you because now we've gone down. I think we went down by 2 goals in each game, and it was those are moments where you can either crumble and you're going to fall apart, or you can be a dog and you can try to fight back and claw
Yeah.
back and do
Yeah.
whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think as a Utica fan, you saw that this weekend, and I'm excited for what the season has in store. These are 2 good teams that we played. Always tough playing away from home. Always tough playing a back to back.
Mhm.
It's still early in the season by all means, but I think that this group, the growth and the maturity over the last 3 years with coach, the injection of some new players. I'm excited for what the season has in store, and I really can't wait.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be really fun. I'm just really blessed to be part of it as always, but it's really been so fulfilling for me. And I think you can appreciate this from your coaching is that, you really do, you become a brother. You become almost family-like, but obviously there's obviously a healthy boundary, of course, but you really just love the growth and you love the specific intentions that everyone's going through and then the vulnerability. Well, it's not so much vulnerability, it's more transparency of what each individual needs and wants. And I get that obviously. And obviously a lot of stuff doesn't meet the eye of or ears of everyone else, clearly, as you and I both know.
Yeah.
But the reality is for me to see you guys and to see how you guys performed and handled the adversity is really exciting. And I think it's going to be scary for the opponents going forward. But if we just stay true to our development of everything that we need that we can control, we can accept the losses and that's for throughout the game, not just the big ones. But I
Yeah.
think it's going to be really exciting to see how we continue to stay on our path because honestly, I think everyone's seeing that we are very much brilliant and we have a big potential of that ultimate brilliance that we are all going for. So it's
Right.
exciting. Andrew, this has been amazing. I really enjoyed this conversation. I think this has been just absolutely insightful. Just for the viewers at home, in case they would like to utilize your service for financial advice, or obviously having you coach their son or daughter for the Full Stretch Academy, can you explain how they can reach you?
Yeah, certainly. So with Full Stretch Goalkeeper Academy, you can certainly follow us on socials, Instagram, Full Stretch GK Academy. Um, Obviously, shoot us a message if you're interested. More than happy to kind of work with anybody who's looking for that. And then the best spot to find me for the business side, financial planning, financial advice will be LinkedIn. Just go ahead, search me on LinkedIn. shoot me a message. I'd be more than happy to help in that regard as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for doing this. You are clearly on your path to brilliance, and it is so amazing to have you as a leader, guiding us and keeping us on the right path. And I couldn't be more honored and privileged to be with you. And I really appreciate our relationship on and off the professional side and obviously personal. So it's been awesome, and I'm so glad we got to do this.
Yeah, me too, Shay. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Have a great rest of the day and enjoy that heat while it lasts.
Will do, will do, will do.
All right, brother. Work on that tan now. All right.
That's it. That's it. All right.
I'll see you, brother.
I'll see you, Shay.
Bye.